Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Nile Russell. Thank you all so much for having me here. And as Joel said, I'm the Director of Education for the American Dance Festival. It's a completely new role, which started October 1st this past year. Typically, they would have a part-time dean that was here over the summers. And for me, it was an organization that I was just eagerly, if a job opened up, I was going to jump and snatch on it. And when this job came about, it was just unbelievably serendipitous timing, and I'm just so pleased to be here. So thank you again for having me. So one thing I like to do before we get going, I know we've already been kind of zany and moving before we had like our whole wake up and shake the Polaroid dance, but I just want us to, if you got a coffee in your hand, if you got a snack in your hand, if you could just like put that down. And we're going to stay seated for this. I like to stay seated for these little warm-ups. But just kind of finding like a relaxed state. You can have your eyes open or closed. It's totally up to you. But I just want us to just take a couple of breaths to start, to just gather ourselves together. It's still morning time. I think some of us may still be waking up. Some of us are like waiting for that coffee to take effect. So while you're just sitting here, if you can just like relax for just 1 second and just hearing my voice and kind of going with me, just taking a deep breath in, release that out. Again, deep breath in and out. This third time is going to be slower, so double the time. Slow in. And take your time to exhale slowly. Take your focus up to the ceiling. Just look at the top. What's going on up there? Take your focus down to the floor. What's going on below you? Bring your focus up center, looking straight ahead. And now take it to the right. What's going on out that window? Nice and rainy day. Take it to the left, to the walls, like that infamous song said. Back to center. Drop your head and just circle it to the right. Just a little circle, like you have a pencil on the top of your head and you're drawing a circle on the ceiling. Nice and easy, no stress, no fuss. And gently reversing that circle to the left, nice and easy with that circle. Just waking up the neck, waking up the head. And now find neutral, just nice and center. Take your shoulders up and just drop them down. Cut the cord like a puppet. And again, take them up, little Pinocchio, and cut the cord. Let's just circle those back, shrug it off, shrug it off. Before the day's even begun, before the things have come down the pipeline, just shrug it off before it even hits you. Beautiful. And reverse it. It's the end of the day. Put the coat on. Leave the office going back home, baby. Nice. And just give it a little 20 shimmy. Be in the 20s again. Shimmy it out. And just have your hands in front, just reaching out. Reach out in front of you. Close it off. Fists. Keep that energy in. Reach out again. Share it. Share it. Fists. Close it off. Just for me. Bring it back out. Little hand jive. Boop, 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 boop. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Circle it out, circle it out. Show off the bangles, show off the bangles. Yes, show off the bangles. Other way, show off the rings, show off the rings. Did you see my jewels? Bueno, bueno. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Get out of here, get out of here. And let it down. And now just lift up your right foot. Just give it a little circle on the ankle, one way, and then the other way. Just playing in the water. Give that a little shake. Get the fishies off. And down, other side. Circle up here. And the other way. And give it a little shake out. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. And down. And again, just take a nice big deep breath in. And let it out with some sound. One more time, deep breath in. Commit and let it out with some sound. Let's get started. So, that's what I like to do just to get my classes started. Yes, we woke up. But just each morning before I get started with my classes, I just like to do something that allows us to first feel the breath in our bodies, try to build up our awareness of what's going on around us, and most importantly, just to connect with how we're starting the day. What am I starting with? How are things flowing through my body? Does this feel like it's sore? Does it feel good? What needs some attention today before I step back out in the world? And so with my students, I try to accomplish that physically, but also emotionally, also mentally, so that we know what we're stepping out with each day, because it's going to be different each day. And so for me, I think that's what movement helps me to do. It helps me kind of step into my present, kind of be into my now. Anytime that I feel out of myself, I try to stretch, try to jump, try to move around just to pull myself back into the present and ground myself again. And I think for me, that journey kind of began when I was little. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Any Baltimoreites in here? No, it's just me. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, and I grew up in the city, so I think that's why I'm kind of quick twitch and fast paced, because I'm used to things just kind of going and going and going. And my mom is a violinist, she's a teacher, and she also worked for the post office. So growing up, I was always around the arts. I was always in a rehearsal. We were always kind of running from here to there. And I think I had a lot of frenetic energy. And so my mom saw that as a little 5-year-old and was like, okay, he can't just be jumping in the wings and screwing up my rehearsals. And so let's figure out how to direct that. And that's when I began dancing. My mom put me into dance classes. And my first foray into dance was tap. And yeah. And so with me, I think I was already kind of moving around, and I think that was like kind of my entry into the world and understanding how the world worked. I think once I started actually studying dance formally and studying tap dance, then that kind of connected me to a structure, and it became movement as structure. Movement connecting me to my internal rhythm, movement starting to connect me to the world and my perspective of the world, and finding that structure through movement allowed me to kind of take that out into other parts of my life as a shy, awkward black kid in Baltimore running around. And I think that was the beginning of my journey through this world. And so that's what I think movement initially meant for me and what it did for me. It gave me some form of understanding, like, how do I walk through space? How do I hold myself up? How do I speak to people? How do I interact with people? And through that, I think, I don't know, it started to shape my worldview, and things that I was interested in was through the arts, it was through movement. It was going to see The Wiz with my mom and see Stephanie Mills do that. It was going to see an art fest where you're seeing all this cool art from the African diaspora. It's going to see classical music play, and so I'm seeing Brahms Symphony when I'm a kid, and just like, and I'm a Cancer as well, so I was like crying in the audience as a 5-year-old. My mom was like, what is going on with this child? And for me, I loved it because I feel like it really tapped into what my potential voice could be. And then as I got older and I was training, I started to go into studios, and I remember I went to middle school and I auditioned for the dance team. And the teacher there at the time, this was like the 90s, and the teacher there at the time was like, well, I don't teach boys. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna redirect. And I started doing musicals, which was new to me, but it felt like, okay, I can still kind of move around. And now I'm doing this kind of singing thing and acting thing. And the first one I did was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where I played Sleepy. And so it was a lot of me just like sleeping on stage. So you can tell how amazing my acting skills were. But I think for me, again, movement allowed me to enter that world and gave me kind of an into a different type of artistic arena, and even more so than broaden my experience, broaden my scope of what it means to exist in this world. And I kind of took that into my education by just trying everything possible. I did every club, I did every activity. It's academic in middle school. I was on the chess team. I was just that weird kid. But for me, I think doing the arts kind of gave me that allowance. It gave me that freedom. And I think that's what a lot of kids, arts education does for us. It gives you this freedom to just explore, to be unabashedly creative, and to figure things out, to be a creative problem solver. And so I love that. And so when someone was like, I'm not teaching boys, I was able to quickly go the other way and be like, okay, cool, I'll get my movement through this other means. And so growing up in Baltimore at the time, I think I was riding this wonderful wave, because I think it changed right after I got out of school. But there was so much in arts education at the time. There was dance, there was choir, there was visual arts, there was instruments. I mean, it was just out the wazoo. And I got a lot of it through schooling, luckily. And it was crazy because the years directly after me, the programs were cut. And for me, I think it may have been the reasons why I think I am a teacher now, because I understand the importance of arts education. Just with me broadening my perspectives as a kid, I think that's exactly what it does for kids. It's not building dancers or painters or singers per se, but it's giving you so many different avenues and so many different ways to be creative, to have to think like, how do I interact with different types of people? How do I express different parts and sides of myself, because I'm not just one? And so for me, I think I was very fortunate in that fact. Because I think when I got to middle school, I think I started to see things change a little bit, and things shift. And it was, I think in middle school, 7th grade, I was in class, in gym class, and we were playing volleyball, getting into it. Volleyball was my thing at the time. I was just loving it as a kid. And over the PA, there came an announcement from the principal that there's a student acting kind of crazy in the halls. And our wonderful gym teacher, Miss Nichols, big, tall, wonderful lesbian woman who wore tracksuits every day, awesome jury curl, let it whip. She heard that and was like, whoa, went into action. She starts running out the room. And then we're kids, and so we're like, we're going to run after her out the room to see what's going on. And we get into the hallway, and Miss Nichols is tackling this little boy down who had brought a machete into school. Yes, Miss Nichols knew what was up. But she knocked this machete, and I remember as a little 12-year-old boy just standing there watching the scene and be like, no, I can't. No longer, no further. And I went home and told my mom about the situation. I was like, okay, so this happened. I don't know if I can go to high school with this energy. And she was like, okay, we'll figure it out. And so I figured it out. I went to the library. I researched private schools and what that was, or independent schools. I got every book on them that I could. I went back to school the next day, and I set up a school fair so that these private schools could come. And so I worked with the principal to contact all those schools, have them come and set up a fair there. And then I had other friends of mine who were interested, and so we got enough interest in it, and so we had an independent and private school fair. And from that, I think about 5 of us got into the schools that came. And then my school was McDonough School, which is in Maryland. That school literally changed my life. And I think it was because, again, of the arts. For me, the arts allowed me to see that I had other options. The arts allowed me to see that I did not have to stay in my scenario. If I wanted to change my situation, I could. That was possible. Even as a 12-year-old, I knew that. And I knew that was possible. And so for me, when I ended up going to this school, I remember the first day I showed up, and probably none of you have heard of this school, but if you ever have the chance to go visit it, I highly recommend it. It's voted the #1 place in Maryland to work. But as you're driving through these woods, it's very dark, you drive over this bridge, and then it opens up into this big pasture. There are horses running along this wooden fence. You have this mile-long driveway going up to the school, and the school's about to turn 150 this year. But for me, all of this movement, I can still remember how my body moved through the space the very first time I went up there. And it again expanded my thought of what the world was. For me, it was Baltimore. For me, I had grown up, traveling up and down the coast, coming down even to this area, because my grandmother's from this region of North Carolina. So we grew up traveling all up and down here and seeing the East Coast and seeing that, but I had never seen anything like this campus before. I had never seen something so expansive, something so open. And I immediately knew, oh, this is where I have to go. And so I barely got in after taking the tests. I was very much so stressing about it. But when I got there, because of this teacher in middle school, was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I won't do dance. I'll do band. I can do that. My mom's a musician. I can play an instrument. And of course, that is the only year, it was the first year and the only year, that the band played for the dance concerts. And so I'm there playing baritone horn, but if you know what a baritone horn is, it's like a small tuba. And I'm still like a little kid. I hadn't had a growth spurt yet. I don't know why I'm playing this thing. It smells funny. But I'm playing like one note a page. And so I'm like, bump, bump, bam. So doing that. And so we played this concert, and we're playing Conga by Gloria Estefan. Bum, ba da 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 bum. These are my notes. And I'm sitting there, And at the corner of my eye, I catch the dancers, and I'm going, ba, ba, ba. Oh my God, ba. I barely forgot what I was doing. I was just focused on them the whole time. They're in these like orange like bodysuits going down the stage, back, up. And I just was like, I have to do that. I saw myself up there. I was like, that's exactly what I do in my living room all day with me and the mop. We're just dancing to Gloria Estefan. And so I auditioned for the spring dance concert and got in, which was like, and had an amazing teacher, Miss Alona Cassell, was my high school dance teacher, and she was a former Fosse dancer. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but like Fosse dancing, ooh. It's very like sultry jazz or Chicago, stuff like that, if you see cell block tango, that kind of vibe. And so before that, I had done tap, I had done ballet, I had done plays in my bedroom to Alanis Morissette. You know. But I had never seen movement like that before. And I had never seen someone connect with their body like that before. And that started a whole new path for me. And Alona Cassell was one of the first people when I was 15, and she was like, maybe you want to choreograph something. Or, hey, I am working with the middle schoolers, can you help me? Can you like help assist my class? I was like, oh, okay, whatever that means. But that opened up the world of dance education for me. And so then movement became this sense of creativity. Movement became this means of building a community. And that, I think that again was life-changing. That influenced so much, I mean, that's why I'm standing here right now. And so it went from movement and structure to movement to be creative, movement to bring people together, movement to educate. And from there, I was able to go abroad and study in France when I was younger, study with a company called Ballet Préjugage. I was able to go to Czech Republic and Italy and do all of these different arts programs through just educating people, through knowing that that was our communal language. That was how we shared our experiences together. And so for me, that began like understanding how movement can take me out into the world, how movement can get me to connect to other people, how movement can get me to understand other people's stories, and how movement can get me to figure out my own creative voice. And I loved it. I ate that shit up. And so once I graduated from high school, again, I don't think I was still convinced or committed, even though I was raised by an artist, but I don't think I was still committed that this could be something that, yeah, you can do. And so I ended up going to Connecticut College. I initially started as a pre-med student because I was going to be a forensic psychiatrist for the FBI. Yes. Well, and I think it's because the psychology of it. I like moving through the brain. I like that discovery. It seemed like another kind of choreography to me in a sense. It seemed another kind of artistic take you could have with the understanding of how the mind works, especially the deviant mind. So I went to Connecticut College, and similar to high school, I came in thinking I'm going to do something else, and I very quickly, before the year was out, auditioned to be a dance major because, again, it was one of those serendipitous moments where I showed up about 30 minutes early to a pre-frosh meeting, like all the accepted students. You get there, and they're like, come and see our beautiful campus. It's amazing. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. Maybe I'll go here, who knows? And so I went around, and we get to this banquet, and I'm super early, and the only other person there happens to be this woman named Lan Lan Wong. We're at the same table, sitting across from each other, and Lan Lan's like, oh, I'm gonna go over here and talk to this little boy, see what he's up. And we start talking. I am getting into it with her. She finds out that I'm a dancer. I find out that she's the chair of the dance department at Connecticut College. Wow. And we end up just speaking for 30 minutes straight. And then people start walking in, and Lala's like, let's continue this conversation tomorrow. Stop by the studio, and let's keep on talking. I'm like, sweet, awesome. I show up to the studio the next day, and Lala's like, I have a phone call. I'm super sorry. But can you just go wait in the studio real quick, and I'll be right back. And I go and sit in the studio, and it's the senior dance majors. And they're doing modern dance. Never heard of that before, modern dance. And they're with this teacher, Eddie Takeda, who was a wonderful mover. And they're like flying down the diagonal and going, wah, 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 and all this crazy shit. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And so I'm sitting there in the rafters while they're doing that. And I'm just like, rocking. And then I look over and I see Lon Lon sitting in the doorway, just watching me. There was no phone call. There was no. She was just watching me there, and so she was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Oh, that looks awesome. I love it." She's like, "Maybe you can do that one day too. Let's go talk." And so Lon Lon convinced me, and I auditioned for the dance major that year. And because of that program, I did not know this, but Connecticut College is connected to the American Dance Festival, in a sense because the American Dance Festival was at Connecticut College from 1948 to 1977. So about 30 some odd years where the festival was there, Martha Graham, Paul Taylor, Merce Cunningham, all of these statues and giants of modern dance were on this campus in those studios, helping to build those studios up. And the first person in my position, relatively, the first dean of the American Dance Festival, Martha Myers, she started our program at Connecticut College. Our biggest studio was named after her, and I received her award my senior year, the Martha Myers Award. Thank you, I see you back there. And so that was unbeknownst to me, though. I went there because the campus was cute. I got a full scholarship, and I was like, sweet. This is a nice visit. I had a cute time. Y'all were really sweet. Let's do this. But looking back on it, I got so much amazing, impactful, thoughtful instruction on movement and what it means to really connect to your body and connect to the space around you. And so for me, Connecticut College, movement became the sense of not only scholastic exploration, but it became this kind of how do you culturally become exposed to people, but also engage with those cultures. Don't just look at it and be like, that's cute, but how do you understand where that's coming from? So I studied everything from Chinese fan dance to Filipino dance to Scottish dance, because we did a whole dance about kilts and everything, and African dance, and then just all the wide diaspora and range of like what movement means. And I really got into this idea of movement through religion, movement through spirituality, and how once I think I started delving into that, I realized that this is not just something that's like, oh, a hobby or something that like you get into the studio when you're doing pliés. But this is something that really connects to us as a species. This is something that connects to our beginnings and our understandings of how does the world around us work and function. When you think back to it, for me, dance began with a sense of what is the sun doing and why is it doing that? How can I make sure that it keeps doing that? Okay, I'm gonna do my sun dance to make sure that the sun keeps coming up and never goes away. Okay, those people are coming to attack us. We all must get together and make sure that they don't come and they see the force of us as one. It's a means of understanding how things are built up in this universe and what's our part in it. And I think all of us are fully and strongly connected to it. There's no one in here that when you are by yourself and your favorite song is playing, you may or may not be in the shower or just got out of it. You move, you bounce, you check a mirror out and say like, I'm cute today, I feel myself. Doesn't matter your age, you can be 5 or 95. When you start to feel that rhythm, it connects you to something. It connects you to this, I would say, this love, this exploration, this appreciation of yourself and this body that got you here. And so that's what I really love about movement and what it does for all of us. And I think that's what I started to explore at Connecticut College. And from there, I was taking a course that was called Indian Civilization. And in my mind, like everybody goes and studies abroad, or most people go and study abroad in college. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to go back to France. That's where I studied abroad in high school. I love it. I have connections there, I have friends there. I'm going to go to La Sorbonne eventually, which is a big university out over there. But then I took this course. And I never liked history before. I think a lot of us may have had history teachers where it's like, and then in 1875, some more bullshit happened. And it's just like, okay. But this class, Indian Civilization, was the first time that I had a teacher who not only taught us all about the history and the culture of India, but he did it through stories. He did it through his experiences. He was like, I was in this region around this temple, and this temple was connected to the people through this, and he just gestured with his body and this, as if you could almost smell where he was in the world. And so for me, I was like, that's where I have to go. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's there, but let's see. And so I ended up going to the University of Mysore in southern India to study temple and architecture studies and Bharatanatyam dance, as well as Kathakali dancing. And during my time there, I spent about 2 months going north and south as high as Mumbai, and then as far down as Trivandrum, which is the very southern tip of India, and doing architectural digs and sleeping in caves with Buddhist monks, or excavating the 2,000-year-old staircase that went to nowhere, but we dug it up, so we're like, yes. But also simultaneously traveling around and seeing different types of dancing and studying different types of dancing. So mostly like Bharatanatyam, which is classical Indian dance style. You wake up every morning about 5 to do an hour of eye training until you get like a headache. But I loved it. I loved learning all the patakas. I liked learning the Vedic chants that went along with it. And that, again, connected me to dance as not just a form of technique. It's not just a thing that's on the side. This is a thing that is really how we shaped culture. This is a thing that, again, how we formed ourselves and said, this is what matters to us. This is what we're afraid of. And this is what we don't know. And I love that understanding. And so doing that and traveling all around India, seeing the various types of cultural dancing that have been around for thousands of years, that again let me know that this is a path and a journey that I want to keep exploring. And so when I came back, I went to New York, like everybody has to do as a dancer or an artist. You step off that bus and you're like, I'm here! And then everything proceeds to dump on you. But when I moved to New York, it became, I think, movement as my identity. This is who I am. And so as an artist, especially as a young artist, especially as a young, poor artist, I was doing a lot of odd jobs. I was waiting tables. I was working in clubs. I was teaching. I was doing anything and everything you can imagine. But I was always introducing myself as I'm a dancer. I'm a dancer who does this. I'm a dancer who does that. And I think for a lot of us in our 20s, that's when you're pushing hard for an identity. That's when you're saying, like, I'm this, I'm that. This is what I am. And you lean into it super hard. And so for me, that's what I leaned into, being a dancer in New York. And I think after a bit, I started to kind of lose why I was really interested in it, because I think I just locked myself into one vibe, locked myself into one tone. And then if you've ever lived in New York, I wouldn't say visit, but if you've lived there, let's say for like at least 2 weeks, I think that's all it takes, you'll understand that it's a challenge, it's a struggle, and a lot of people do not go past a certain point. And I had a lot of very extreme high moments when I was working on TV shows or doing this or hanging out with celebrities, and then a lot of extremely low moments where I'm like, I don't know where I'm living the next day, or wow, that's $900 I don't have now. Stuff like that. Or you do a photo shoot and you're like, I didn't know this cost so much money, or that rent was a thing you do every single month. It's lessons that you learn as like a young 22-something-year-old. And so for me, I wrapped myself in this identity of I'm a dancer, this is what I'm doing, this is what my focus is. And that still allowed me to move and traverse through the city. But eventually, I think I kind of was feeling burnt out on that and wondering what was next. Like, as a dancer, what am I really offering? What am I really saying? And I think that's when Pilobolus came around. And I don't know if anybody here has heard of Pilobolus Dance Theater or seen Pilobolus Dance Theater, but Pilobolus, for me, as a dancer who had been studying dance by that time for 20-something years, it's completely new. And the idea is that it was started by these 4 men and 2 women back in the 1970s. And the whole idea or philosophy is that they're shifting their weight through space. There's nothing that's really lifting. You're shifting to share your weight. You're working on the physics of the weight and how to balance and counterbalance. And everything is created through improvisation, created through instinctual movement, created through how do you react and respond to what's happening in the space, as opposed to thinking it up. And so that when you get on stage, it feels natural. It feels like, oh, we're just moving together. We're just doing this together, you know? And so that's what I loved about it. So for me, it became movement as philosophy, movement as a way of life, movement as in this is what you're bringing out into the world. This is who I'm representing myself as a human and as what I love to do and what I'm passionate about. And so I say it's philosophy because in Pilates we had a lot of sayings, but one of them is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. When things are getting crazy and when you're like, before you knock yourself out or run into a wall, slow it down. Take a breath. Once you slow something down, you begin to see all the parts of it. You can take a step back and fully observe the whole picture. And so you smooth things out, kind of like a school of fish going. They don't really hit each other. They're constantly just moving between each other. So you're smoothing out the pathways of things. Once you smooth that out, you can speed it up. And it can be any speed. Blah, 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 blah. And now you make it fast. So you slow it down to smooth it out, and then you can take it at any speed. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. Another one that I really loved was, what was this one? Oh, go when you go. One of the original founders and directors of Pilates, he passed away a year after I joined the company, but his name was Jonathan Wolken. And anytime you're doing something, if you hesitate, if you're like, I'm not too sure about this, or I don't know, you know that it may not be accomplished fully then. It may not really happen. And so he was like, if you're going to do something, fucking do it. Go when you go. Don't hold back. Give everything you've got. Like, let it out there. And so for me, that's why it became movement as philosophy. Pilates became not only a company that I'm dancing with or a style that I'm learning. I was like, oh, this is something I can take out of the studio. This is something that I can teach to anyone. And through Pilates and through that education, I taught not only dancers, I taught executives who worked for Avon. I have worked with actors. I have worked with novelists. I have worked with visual artists and collaborated with so many people who were not just considered quote unquote dancers or movers. And to be able to do that, to be able to be malleable in my community and how I can translate this, that was powerful. That was groundbreaking to me. And so to take that into my philosophy and to take that into how I live my life, I think that's one of the greatest gifts that that company gave me, along with traveling around the globe through dance education and going to over 24 countries and over 5 continents and teaching people who we don't speak the same language, going to Kingdom of Bahrain and teaching like a movement class to like 25 women who are wearing burqas, and you can't really see them, but you can feel that energy. And you know that you're connecting, and you know that like, oh, this is something that we're never going to speak the same language possibly, but now we are. Now I know exactly how they're feeling. They know what I'm trying to communicate, and we are, from now and ever, within each other's lives. We have shared this moment together. And again, I think that's a very powerful thing that dance does. And so from that, then I moved over to Denver after dancing with Pilates for about 5 years initially, my initial first time retiring. And I lived in Denver for 8 years. And that's when it became movement as discovery, because I didn't know what was going to happen out there. And I think I had to come into myself once more and begin another introspective journey and discovery. And I think that is a major part of what led me to this moment here, because I think for a lot of us, I think if you are someone who is around your mid-30s, have been through your mid-30s, you've had what they've called a crisis of some sort. Some people would say it's a midlife crisis, but I don't think that's the middle of life. But I had a lot of questions, and I had a lot of things that I did not know what was going to happen next, and I had a lot of concerns about, have I been going on the right path with this? But I think something that has been helpful is that I've always been able to look back on this career, look back on the movement, and know that it's something, again, that has allowed me to figure out my own voice, to figure out what really matters to me, to figure out how to connect to people in my community, how to build that community. And this allowed me to travel over and know that my perspective is not the only one, nor am I unique in my struggles when they come to me. And I know that I always have someone to reach out to, even if it's just reaching into myself. And again, grounding myself in my now and my present and my reality. And so coming back out here to Durham, North Carolina, being in this position, and being in this position for about 6 months and some change now, and then everything that it comes with when I'm able to facilitate, to go out with my movement in an effort to bring people back here, and then to espouse what this organization has been doing for about 90 years is truly a privilege. because I think I am really appreciative of all the ways that movement has brought us together and helped us reach out into the world, but more importantly, I think how it's helped us reach into ourselves and find not only that clarity, but that kindness for ourselves, that respect for ourselves, and then hopefully allowing that to permeate out to others, that kindness, that respect, and hopefully that love and building of a community. So for me, I think it, to wrap it up, comes back to the breath and movement, how it grounds us in our reality, puts us back into our present, puts us back into the current and the now in order to then traverse and go back out into the world. And again, take that kindness, that respect that hopefully we give to ourselves. So if we could all just take another deep breath in and release it out. Take another one in and out. And the third one a little bit longer. And let it all out. Shalom Akshav. Thank you all so much for having me here today.
Incredible. I don't want to leave. I want to hear you for the rest of today. So we are at 10 o'clock. If you're able to stick around for a few Q&As, if folks would like to, we could do a little bit of Q&A. We're a little over time, but...
Yeah, that's fine with me. I left my phone up here, so I'm coming back anyway.
Cool. So I will say just a couple quick things. If you need to leave, feel free to do so. There are some coffee mugs and coffee in the gallery, and then if you want to join us over at Counterculture. But if you have a few questions and want to ask them, we can do that for 5 minutes or so.
Thank you, Nile. It's nice to meet you. It seemed like you were talking a lot about articulation and form, maybe not being as important as attunement, right? In the sense of you had a very curious experience, a circuitous route. You did a lot of things and studied a lot of different disciplines. But I want to know if that's true or if I just read that, in the sense that you mentioned we all dance, we might all be good at the form, but we all move to the rhythm of the moon, our solar system, right? So is articulation less important than attunement?
I think articulation is always important in a sense of clarity. And articulation, I think, is also subjective sometimes. And it really depends on what we're saying. So for me, the difference is that dancers have training within a studio, but we all are capable of movement. So I feel like everyone is a mover. Everyone at the heart of it has a heartbeat, literally, and everyone has their own internal rhythm. And then everyone, I think, if you're breathing, if you're moving any part of your body, you're a mover. And you are in tune to that in some sense. And then a dancer is having a kind of codification of that movement and really investigating what that movement is, the full capacities and capabilities of the human form. But I feel like it's just a difference. It's a matter of what you need for yourself. And I think there is a base level of articulation where it's just I'm understanding what I'm putting out there in the world. I understand how I'm walking. I understand how I look at someone or how I talk to someone. And that's going to be different than I understand where my pelvic floor is. So, I think we can all have a kind of sense of articulation at the heart of it. I don't know if that answered your question. I think someone got my pelvic floor situation. Yes.
My name is Courtney, and I just want to know, what are you excited about this year about ADF? What's coming? What's some new programming or new opportunities, and how are you collaborating with this area too in Durham?
Nice. As you can see from my face, I'm super excited. So this year, because I've been coming down to the ADF since about 2010 as an artist. I went there with Palablas about 6 years and went there with Rosie Herrera, dance theater after that. And then I've been driving up and down through this area since I was a child, going to family cookouts, family reunions, all the good things. And so for me, what I'm very much so excited about is that this past year I did this initiative called ADF Coast to Coast, which generally the festival would do a certain amount of recruitment, which we would go out in the land and try to find dancers and faculty and do maybe, I would say, 20 or so engagements. And this past year, I did 60 some engagements because I do the most. But for me, and I think also because I'm used to touring with Palabras, we would do 130 some odd shows a year. And so you're on the road 9 months out of the year. And so for me, I'm like, while I'm so young, I'm just 40 years old, let's get it in. And so we engaged with 60 different communities and engagements, 2 countries, over 15 states, crisscrossing the country from here to Portland, from California to Massachusetts. And so through that, I think we engaged with over 1,600 participants on the road, which is shown in our numbers. And so if you saw the festival last year, it's about to be exponentially more this year in terms of just participants and enrollment. So I'm really excited about that because just going out and being a teacher for the past 25 years, but going out around the country and then also up into Canada and seeing some of the talent and some of the drive of these students who, honestly, for these young students, the past 3 years, it's been crazy for us, yes. But for kids and for young artists, and I can't imagine what it's been like for them to have that absence of not just like dance training, but like interaction, being in the space, communally with each other and physically. I can't even. So I've seen people come out in droves. Our pre-professional program, which is for our young dancers, normally the enrollment is about 30-something this year, and we have like maybe about 40 to 50 some odd students who apply. This year we had over 90 students apply to the program, and the program is booked and blessed. And so for me, I'm first of all excited about all the people that are coming here and going to be gathered into this one space and to have them interact with each other, engage with each other, and then like a sparkler or fireworks shoot back out into the globe and maintain those relationships in the community that they build. So community that is going to be existing here for those 6 weeks, that's the pinnacle of my excitement and my goals for this summer. I'm also excited about the faculty that we're bringing here. I'm excited about the performances. And I think mostly, I think the ADF this year, Jody, our executive director, has always been trying to find means of engaging with the community more and making it not just something that like, oh, it's Durham, and they're like, ADF is here and doing things occasionally on the side. No, it's like we want to be integrated. We want to be invested in this community and the art and the talent that is all across the board in this community. And I've been wonderfully pleased to see so many amazing, beautiful artists. And so a lot of us are new in these positions and have come here, and some of these positions have turned full-time. Mine, which was a part-time summer dean, is now a full-time director of education. I'm here year-round on the ground. And so we're able to get out into the community. Yesterday, I was able to go to the Fruit and check out the spaces over there, and the Fruit is the bomb, y'all. And to go down there and have Tim kind of walk me around, and we went into the basement and saw this unbelievable spot. And I'm like, we are doing our closing party here. But not just that, to see everything else that's going on in that building, and then to go to other venues here and starting to speak with other artists and other directors. I'm excited for the direction that I see Durham going. And it can always go 2 ways. I've lived in New York, I've lived in Denver, I've lived in a lot of different countries where I've seen gentrification, let's be real, and that will like blow a city out the water. Yeah, it brings a lot of money and things look all shiny, but like the heart of it kind of dies off, the culture kind of becomes meh, and it becomes, you know, to be honest, some Ugg boots and some cowboy hats. But what we need to do is, I think, what is being happening right now in Durham. I'm seeing a lot of new developments going up, but I'm also seeing a lot of the old culture being maintained. And I think that's something that Durham is on the cusp of, and I think a lot of us, hopefully, are going to fight to maintain that it stays how it was, and the reason that it got to this point, the reason why people are coming here. And although I've just been living here since October, I've been coming here my whole life. My grandmother's from this region, and I know that is dope because she came out of it. If Nancy Russell came from here, we need to keep that going. And so for me, I want the area to keep building up, and I want to keep influxing or having an influx of artists and creativity and design and entrepreneurship coming to this area. But I want to make sure that the people who entice those people to come here are still here and able to do their art, are still here and able to have their restaurants and their culture, are still here and able to send their kids to these schools and find these jobs and find housing and just create a culture and not, create a gloss. Like the culture needs to maintain. And so that's what I'm really excited about, because I think a lot of us bring that here. A lot of us love this organization. A lot of us love Durham. A lot of us are loving everything that we're doing and seeing around here and the communities that we're building up here. And so overarching, this summer, I'm excited about community. I'm excited about bringing this art to Durham. I'm excited about the community having exposure and being in full communication with that. And I'm excited to see what people in this room are going to be doing with that. So yeah, I'm someone who I would call myself a realist, but I'm a super optimistic realist. So I'm like, the world is on fire, yes, but we can still decorate it, y'all. Like, come on. Like, we can still get things going. So that's what I'm excited about this summer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Nile.